I'll be talking about designing for integrity in VR. So a little bit about myself. My name is Jasmine Oh. I'm a senior product designer at Meta in the Harassing integrity team. So for those of you who are not familiar with Meta Horizon Worlds, it's a social VR platform. It's an all-expanding social universe where you can interact with real people in real time. So here's a video to give you a better idea.
Are you going to the show?
Yeah.
Heads up. Let's get this party started.
Want to get some ice cream?
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah. Look at that.
Thanks, guys. I'm here all week.
So as you can see in Horizon Worlds, from hanging out in intimate comedy clubs to going to a hip hop club and hanging out with other people, you can go into peaceful meditation or a sound bath. You can play games with others or build worlds. There's always something to do and always something to discover. And with the excitement of VR, there's always a potential to cause harm. So our goal in Horizon Integrity is to create a safe and welcoming environment for everyone. This means we want to ensure and respect the authenticity of people, give people the voice to share their experiences while protecting their privacy. So there's a lot of problem currently in the digital social space. Some of these problems, it happens in 2D space as well, but it could be more acute in VR because you're in an immersive environment. So some of these include verbal harassment, so harassing others for their avatar's appearance or their accent. There's also physical harassment, like groping someone or trying to invade their personal space. There's bullying. This may entail just displaying inappropriate behavior, yelling at them, throwing objects at them. There's doxing. This includes befriending a younger user for the intention of sexual abuse. And that was grooming. And there's doxing, which is searching for and publishing information that might be personally identifiable. So when considering solving for integrity in social VR, there's 4 elements that you need to consider. 1, you need to be able to identify the problem and understand how the problem is categorized. When you identify the problem, you need to know how to mitigate it. So understanding the rules and also communicate to the users what those rules are. 3rd is protection and control. So this includes giving the people the protection and the right ways and tools for people to self-mitigate. Last one is self-mitigation and enforcement, empowering the users to know what they can do, and also for those actors who cause harm, meeting them with the right levels of consequences. So our goal for designing for integrity is really just twofold. There's a defense, which is reducing harm and negative experiences, and there's an offense, which is encouraging positive behaviors. So I'll talk first about reducing harm and negative experiences. So let's walk through a scenario. So Jenny is a frequent visitor at Horizon. This is her first time exploring this world called Scavenger Hunt. She enters a world and she sees a couple people that she doesn't know for the first time. She's looking around, she notices this avatar, Alex, who is yelling at people and saying inappropriate things. She can tell that people are frustrated. And Alex notices her, also says inappropriate things, racial slurs, and so on. Alex moves towards Jenny, and when Alex gets close, he tries to swing his arm around her. Thankfully, Jenny has a personal boundary. So when Alex's arm gets close, he's halted from movement, and his arm disappears and fades away. Jenny is flustered, she's annoyed, she wants to quickly get away. So she looks at her wristband and she taps on the shield icon and decides to go into a safe zone. In this safe zone is her personal space. She can take a moment away from her surroundings and the people, and she's able to make necessary actions. She can mute, she can block, she can report someone. She decides to mute Alex. When Jenny returns, she no longer hears Alex, and she's able to enjoy her time, and she's able to focus on the scavenger hunt. Sometime later, she sees something pop up, and she sees that someone in the same instance has anonymously asked to vote on removing Alex. So she decides to vote against him, so she decides to vote on removing him. And after some time, she's also notified that Alex has been removed. So I just walked through a very brief scenario. These are just a couple of things that we do in Horizon. First is personal boundary. This is a way to prevent avatars from getting too close to you. So by default, for people who are not friends with each other, there's approximately 4 feet distance, always, so people cannot come within that 4 feet of distance. But you can always change it if you're in a game that requires close contact, like if you're in a boxing match or something, you can turn it off. Another safe zone is a quick and easy way to just take a break and move away and take a moment for yourself. And you can take those necessary actions like mute or block. Another way for the community to help mitigate this harmful situation is pull to remove. So this, you can, as someone in the same instance, you can anonymously ask to vote on removing someone in the instance, and it requires majority vote to remove that person. So those are a couple of ways to empower the users on self-mitigating. There are also other community governance tools. So as a creator of the world, you can also kick someone out for displaying inappropriate behavior. We also have community guys. So these are guys who are not only in Horizon to help you navigate the world, but also there to call any trained specialist if they hear of or learn of any harmful experiences. One of the key challenges for designing for integrity is that in a synchronous environment, there are so many variables at play. So if you think about VR, the context is really key. You can point at someone and you can say, hey, look, and that could feel completely innocuous, whereas if you're pointing at someone and calling out all these racial slurs and you're yelling at it, then it could feel offensive. So context is key. There's a lot of things at play, like people around you, tone of voice, what action you're doing. So it's important that our policies are flexible enough to account for these contextual differences. When it comes to design considerations, the integrity not only starts when the harm happens, but it starts way before then. So we have to think holistically about before the integrity happens, like even when people are onboarding. Thankfully, in the case that I showed you, Jenny was able to take action right away because she knew exactly which tool to trigger. But for most cases, you need to educate them beforehand. So it's all about before the harm, during the harm, and after the harm. So, and then another consideration is thinking about how the integrity tool can potentially be weaponized for harm. So thinking about pull to remove. There could be a case where people can gang up against one person and to remove an innocuous person for no reason. So you have to draw out all the edge cases and make sure the tool is used for safety and not for harm. In the next section, I'll talk about encouraging positive and pro-social behaviors. So currently, the biggest problem is that it's really hard to trust someone. I experienced this myself when I entered a social VR space for the first time, and a stranger came up to me. I was so flustered because I was like, do I engage with them? Do I talk to them? How much should I share about myself? Do I tell them where I'm from? Like, there are all these question marks because the anonymous nature of VR is that you don't know a lot about those people. So you're really basing off your judgment on the avatar and their voice and the actions that they're doing. Also next is VR as a mass media is relatively new. So there aren't established social norms. If there are social norms, it's always changing and it's difficult for people to understand what is appropriate behavior from what is an inappropriate behavior. So thinking about the real world, what motivates people to do good, to display good behaviors? So a lot of the times we're motivated by both external and internal factors. So external factors, meaning I just want to be a good citizen, I want to abide the law, I also want to fit in with my community. Internal factors could be feeling empathetic for others, wanting to feel a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment, or just following your own ethics. And when you're designing to incentivize these positive behaviors, we have to have these three key elements. First is there needs to be a way to recognize positive behaviors. I was thinking about this on my way to the conference right after I got out of my Uber. This is such a common way. You rate the driver also rates you. This happens all the time in the digital space. Second way is displaying the positive behaviors to encourage those behaviors and to encourage positive mimicry. Another example of this could be the Airbnb superhost. As a host, if you gather enough positive signals from the people who stayed in your home, you get a badge, you get a special badge, and it's a social proof, and it's a way to signal to others that you're a trustworthy host. Lastly, when all of these signals aggregate, it creates a positive culture and positive standard. So let's walk through a brief scenario. So Jenny's in a new world. She's playing a game this time. It's called Shaptionary, and here it's a game where you assemble an object, and the first one to complete an object that matches the prompt wins. Jenny is a bit lost. She doesn't understand the rules, and she fails a couple of rounds, so she's feeling discouraged. As they wait for the next round, one of the players comes over and she hollers at her and says, I can help you out, and walks her through some of the tips and tricks. So Lauren here patiently walks her through what she has learned, what you can do to win the game. It's time for Jenny's turn. She finally gets the hang of it, and she's able to win a couple games. She's really enjoying the game. After the game, Jenny wants to thank Lauren for her help. So she taps onto the name tag, and she's able to send thanks. There are a couple categories to send thanks. So there's a way to acknowledge one another for positive behaviors, for being helpful, talented, and being a good sport. She decides to go with being helpful. When she thanked Lawrence, the object that signifies the thanks, flies out and flies into the recipient, and there's a nice glow around the recipient's avatar. So this is just one quick way, a very lightweight way to recognize someone's pro-social behavior. So in this case, it's a very delightful way to just send an acknowledgement by thanking them. Some of the key challenge here is to drive genuine things and to drive a genuine behavior. So there were a lot of details that we considered. things like limiting the amount of things that you can give. So if you can constantly thank someone, the recipient wouldn't feel as special when you receive the thanks. So after someone thanks someone, there's always a cooldown, so you can't thank another person for 10 minutes. There's also limited types of thanks. It's easy to recognize. It's just helpful, positive behaviors, good talent, and good sport. Those are intentionally limited, so it's easy to comprehend and recognize. A lot of the delight factor is around the art and the avatar. So we explored a wide range of options. And when we were calibrating them, we were thinking about the visual tone. So we wanted to strike the right tone that is not too corporate and dry, but not too fun, because at that point it feels a bit gimmicky. So there were some ideas that we considered, like sending a pet. So a pet can come and drop you the present to express gratitude, like a little messenger birdie. We also consider the scalability of the object. So the object itself couldn't be too complex. So when the person receives the things, it's easy to recognize. And lastly, the effect had to feel evergreen. So think about the feeling that you get when you get thanked for the first time. It might feel very fresh at first, but if you get thanked for the 30th time, depending on the effect, it could feel jaded. So we wanted to make sure it feels evergreen. In all of our products, we consider the privacy and control. So some of the challenges is that when you are being thanked, for example, some people might want to display whenever they are thanked and they want to show off, while others might want to keep it to themselves and relish it in their personal space. So it was important to consider and leave it up to the users to control when they are displaying those effects. So when you are thanked for the first time, we ask the user, hey, do you want to display these effects every time you're thanked, or you want to not show it? And we're always accounting for context. So you might be in the middle of a game, or you might be in the middle of an action, and you don't want this glow to suddenly appear, then it's up to you to decide when to show it. So overall, I've spoke about reducing harm and negative experiences. So this includes making sure that people have the necessary tools to self-mitigate and to enforce consequences appropriately for those harm. And then the last section, I talked about encouraging positive and pro-social behaviors. This is about cultivating that cultural norm and to make sure people have the ability to recognize each other and to acknowledge each other for positive behaviors. So to close, I'll mention that a lot of the times in integrity, it feels reactive. We take a reactive stance and only think about what we should do to mitigate the harms after the fact. But it really starts with all of us, and it starts with not only just the policy and the enforcement, and not only is the responsibility is on the platform itself, but integrity also resides on the responsibility of the creators who build the environment. It also resides on the people who participate in the environment, and for the rest of us, the VR enthusiasts who are contributing to the discourse, who are shaping the cultural norms. So I ask you all to take a proactive stance and have those frank conversations, think about the trade-offs, and to contribute to integrity. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Some questions? Questions? Topics? Oh, nothing? Yes, please.
How do you consider cultural differences when designing for integrity?
For cultural,
When you do things, you mentioned that some people, maybe where they live, for example, or culture, they may want to show off or not. I don't know if this applies to other things.
yeah. That's a really great question. So even with the art, we wanted to make sure that there aren't any specific religious connotations for the art. We do have a very robust research team that, you know, goes out and talks to people with different cultural backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, to make sure that it doesn't come off offensive to some, and that is inclusive for everyone.
Thank you. Well, somebody else? No? Yes, please.
How do you user test the different policies for making people feel safe?
User testing different policies.
How do you user test the different techniques that you're using to create a positive culture?
Oh, I see. There's different levels of research. So there's like literature research where we look at the real world references on what really motivates people to display pro-social behaviors, to the more granular concept research. So we have tested multiple different ranges of art and effects and also concepts. So we go out and talk to people. I think that's the best way to talk to people, and to see what the trade-offs are and to identify if there are any risks that we didn't see before.
And then do you test it once it's been applied?
Yep. Yeah, and after the product launches, we also make sure it's behaving in the right way. So there are different metrics that we track. We also sometimes run a survey, or we do another round of research to make sure it's meeting people's expectation. Yeah.
Well, thank you to Jasmine for this conference and this talk. No?